coaches at this particular meeting that he needed a quarterback. Mark Walters, who was a year ahead of me, had blown his knee out in spring ball. Sal Inessi was prop 48, the late great Sal was prop 48. We since lost him, tough battle with cancer. And he didn't have any freshman quarterbacks. So he just made this announcement to this group of coaches. And my coach came back and said, CJ, I know you committed to Eastern Michigan, but there may be an opportunity for you to go to Colorado, but here's the catch. It's so late in the recruiting season that they don't have any scholarships. So you would have to walk on and take a leap of faith and see what happens. I'd never been west of Chicago in my life, but I got on an airplane and I came out to Boulder, knowing no one, having no relationship with this region of the country at all. Now remember flying into Stapleton and driving, one of the coaches picked me up, driving and coming into the Boulder Valley there and being completely blown away with something I'd never witnessed or seen before in my life. Just the aesthetic beauty of this place. Nervous as can be. Nervous as can be. And so I got to campus, and the surroundings completely unfamiliar. In fact, Hallett Hall is where I dropped my goods off at. That was the first dorm right outside this building that myself and Joe Steed and Eric Bieniemy and Greg Thomas stayed in. So I came here as a walk-on. I earned a scholarship after the second semester, during the spring of my freshman year. And so here I am on scholarship. Now I go into my sophomore year. The University of Colorado is preparing to play Oklahoma. Nationally televised game. We are a program that's beginning to make some inroads nationally. People are beginning to recognize CU. At the time, if some of you can remember, it was Nebraska and Oklahoma that dominated this region of the country. And the night before the Oklahoma game, it was nationally televised on ESPN. We were stretching and preparing for our final practice. It was a Friday night. And I'm sitting there, and as we are stretching, two gentlemen with suits began to walk towards our practice, which was completely unfamiliar. Bill McCartney didn't allow outsiders on the field when we were preparing. So they began to walk, and we knew this was a strange occurrence. And we all kind of got a little bit unsettled, right? Because we didn't know what was going on. So they walked right to my feet and said, Charles, we need to talk to you. So I said, okay. And I'm looking around, looking at the coach. Coach is like, yeah, those guys need to talk to you. So I got up and we walked. They said, look, CJ, this is the deal. You have been financially disenrolled from school. You know that semester that you were here and you weren't on scholarship? Well, that was $6,000 out-state tuition. And until you pay the $6,000, you are not a student on this campus. You're not a member of this football team. You have to go in the locker room, clean it out, and go to your apartment. So here I am, 19 years old, trying to figure it out. You can imagine what might have been going through my mind at this time. Initial instinct was to call home and ask mom and dad for assistance. But I immediately thought against that because I know mom, a single mom of 7 kids would have moved heaven and earth and made probably all my siblings sacrifice to get the resources out here so that I could re-enroll in school. I didn't tell mom, didn't tell dad, didn't tell anyone. I remember going back to my apartment that evening, and I had to figure out how I was going to make this money. So I got a job. The following Monday, I went down to a ceramics roller skate wheel factory out in East Boulder, and I got a job. So I'm working. It's October 1988. I'm working, making roller skate wheels as my team is out there preparing and practicing and playing football games. I went to each class that I was enrolled in, no longer enrolled in, and I asked each professor, I said, look, I'm financially disenrolled from school, but I'll have this bill paid, but I would love to continue to just go to class so that I don't lose time in school. and each professor agreed to do it. It was the spring, right before spring ball, the following year, 1989, when I wrote that final check, walked it right over here to the bursar's office, and was re-enrolled in school. It was several years later when I told my mom that I was actually disenrolled from school. She didn't know. But something incredible happened during that time period. I discovered who I might be as a young man. I discovered campus in a completely different way. I had an opportunity to hang out in the BSA office. That's where Felicia and Angelia and Dawn and so many other people who became prominent in my life over the course of these years, I became more familiar with. It was a blessing. It was a complete blessing for me, for that to have been taken away from me at that moment, so that I can experience the fullness of what makes this place great. This is a great place. And as was spoken about before, as Graylin mentioned, it can be tough. It can be challenging for young African-American students on this campus for a number of reasons. But what I've discovered in life is that it kind of mimics life. You know, there are no guarantees that this is going to be an easy road regardless. I look at it as a training ground for what's in front of us, what's before us. So I re-enrolled in school. University of Colorado goes on the next year. We're undefeated. The following season, we win the national championship. I played in a game called the Fifth Down. I hate the fact that I'm over-recognized really for something that I'm not extremely proud of. And you know, we beat Missouri and we were awarded an extra down. And right around October 6th every year, ESPN reminds me that we did indeed have an extra down. We went on that year and we won the national championship. It was my redshirt junior year, and I was awarded the game's most valuable player. I decided right after the game, in a post-game interview, that I'm not coming back to play football anymore. I had already worked it out with my coach that he would allow me to continue on and go on to grad school and stay on scholarship for that following year. Look, my life here at CU has been, in a lot of ways, at least in terms of what people know, it's been a fairy tale. The reality is there are a bunch of scars, as is the case for everyone who's attended this great university. It was for Bill Harris, who came to Colorado from New Jersey back in 1960. I had an opportunity to spend a lot of time with Mr. Harris, African-American gentleman who I worked with in the athletic department. Awesome individual, but I'm thinking 1960, Boulder, Colorado, and I complained about the challenges that I might have had in 1987. It's amazing how relationships tend to put things in perspective. And so, we go on, we win a national championship. By the way, for whatever reason, I was called right after the national championship game to be a guest on a Tonight Show. You guys, some of you guys may remember. Jay Leno and Johnny Carson, this is how old I am again. Johnny Carson was still hosting the show. But on this particular night, it was Jay Leno who was hosting the show. And he came into the little green room. He said, CJ, we're going to talk about things like, you know, football and college life, national championship game. I'm like, Mr. Leno, that's perfectly fine, whatever you like to talk about. Then he said, keep in mind, I'm 20 years old, I'm a junior in college. Then he said, you know, I'll ask you, like, you know, who's the favorite lady in your life? I said, Mr. Leno, if you don't mind, no girlfriend. To which he responded, absolutely. He took his pen and he scratched the question out. So the show starts. I'm as nervous as can be. I walk out, I sit down. After about 2 minutes, I get completely comfortable with this setting. So I'm in my element. And he noticed it. And he said, so, CJ, any special ladies in your life? Man, I started licking my lips and sitting up and rocking. I said, no. I said, yeah, my mom. She was there. You were most proud of. And there are a lot of things I am proud of, to be completely honest with you. I am proud, and probably more so than being proud, blessed with the relationships that has endured over the course of my life. From being a young boy, growing up in Detroit's northwest side, to to being a student on this campus, to now being a citizen in a great city like Denver. Completely blessed and proud of these relationships. I am proud of what we accomplished academically and athletically and socially on this campus over the course of all those years. But for me, it's a very simple question to answer. And it gets to the heart of what an alumni association should be about and is about. It's not about what you print in folders or agendas or magazines. It's not about telling a great story. It's about living it. Back in 1988, right after I had discovered that I was no longer a student on campus for that time period, I had gone home to visit my family over the Christmas break. My mom had asked me to go up to Detroit Cooley High School and pick your brother up for me. So I get in the family car, I go to Cooley. I walk in the door of this high school, and it was completely unfamiliar to me. Here I am in one of the nation's most beautiful settings, a great academic institution, getting a great education. And my own flesh and blood, my baby brothers at Cooley High School, where when you walked in, you walked through a metal detector. It resembled more prison than it did someplace where a young boy should be getting a quality education. They had a police station in the school. It wasn't a substation across the street. It was in the school with clothed police officers in it. So I'm disturbed by this. We go home. I said, Mom, look, you got to let Chris come out the boat. There's no way my baby brother can get at least half the opportunity that I've been given in this environment. You got to let him come to the boat. To which my mom responded, as many of you could imagine, boy, you take your butt back to school. I raised just like I raised. It wasn't, that's the G ring.
Yeah. I know that.
So I came back to school. Here I am. I went back to work at the roller skate wheel place. And I continued to call back and say, Mom, you got to let him come out. He's the baby of 7. You got to let him come out and give him an opportunity. That summer, she finally relented as things were getting bad for Chris in the neighborhood. I remember picking him up from Stapleton just as I was just 2 years prior. And driving in, and we settled into my apartment. We enrolled him at Fairview High School. Now, I was 19, 20 years old at the time. He was 16. Neither one of us had a clue about what we were doing. But it was Second Baptist. It was Pastor Van. It was Miss Robinson. It was Braylon and Mr. Gatewood. It was Derek Faison. It was Felicia and Angelia and Dawn. It was my teammates. It was this community. That's when I say black alumni, it's beyond those who attended class here at the university. It's this community that nurtured, that provided a nurturing environment for a little poor kid from Detroit who never attended CU. And it turned his life around. It changed his life. He went from flunking out of Cooley High School to graduating and going on to college on a basketball scholarship. He's back in this community right now with a beautiful family and doing good things. For that, I am forever grateful and owe this place. I've always gotten more from this place than it has given me. I'm mindful of that. Even when I complain about what's not completely right about it. We know the journey will never end. I mean, we will struggle. It'll be a challenge for us. Forever. But there's victory in the journey. There's victory in the fight. It really is. I'm a living testimony, improbable, that I stand before you. And it was never about me. It's about that little boy who, again, never was offered a scholarship, never played a down of football here at CU, never attended a class. But his life was molded and shaped, and it had given him an opportunity that he would have otherwise never had. So I'm forever grateful and appreciative for all of you. This association is important. It's not lip service. It has an impact on real lives. So, Felicia and you guys, kudos to you. My hat's off. You know, we're going to engage this thing in a way that we never have before, Graylin, and make this what you all and we all hope that it will one day be. And I want to thank the choir for coming out and doing a wonderful job. I've spoken way too long. God bless you. Go Bucks. And let's go get started today.